AI is taking our jobs, and yet thousands of people are making millions and millions of dollars off of this AI revolution. How do we stay current in 2026? How do we utilize AI to make millions of dollars to be wealthy? And what developer skills do we actually need going forward, if any? And the answer is we need many, but we need different ones than we used to need. So let's jump into this video and talk about AI and the future of a developer. Let me get myself out of the way. 7 AI proof skills you need before 2026. And unfortunately, we're already in 2026, so you better get cranking. Future proof your career against automation by mastering the things the algorithm can't do. Let's start with a little automation reality check and talk about the threat and the opportunity. Like I said, AI is taking jobs, and yet people are making millions. How do we secure ourselves to not lose our jobs or not become unemployed and dependent on the government to feed us, and somehow take advantage of this huge opportunity to make lots and lots of money? Well, there are less jobs. This is true. AI is mastering repetitive tasks at a terrifying rate. Basic scripts, routine reports, and entry-level workflows are evaporating. The safe tech jobs of yesterday are now on the chopping block. Chop. However, there are opportunities that come with this. Don't compete with the algorithm, work with it. The future belongs to those who can build, direct, and audit AI systems. We are focusing today on the skills that companies are throwing money at. I talk about this often. It's not us versus AI, it's us with AI, but the landscape looks different. So yes, jobs are gone. Well, not all gone, but there are far less opportunities. The days of grinding on elite code and building up those skills and sending in a resume to a big tech company and landing a six-figure job, I believe, are over. First off, the skills that they teach on Leet Code, and if you don't know what Leet Code is, it's probably not a video for you, but the skills that they teach on Leet Code are outdated. All of those skills are replaced by AI. And the days of sending in resumes, large companies especially, aren't hiring more people. In fact, right now they have too many people and they're trying to get rid of people. However, there are many, many small startup companies starting to emerge. And this is kind of the opportunity, which is something that I'm experiencing right now. I have a job, but my job is very dependent on AI. I happen to have a job as a single developer on this small team because I'm able to do full stack, large software engineering for this small little group of people to solve this small little problem. But that generates enough money to pay all of us. But it wouldn't generate enough money to pay a full team of engineers to develop the software. But I wouldn't be able to build the software without AI. So there's a huge opportunity here. I was also talking to this guy I met skiing the other day he's a Silicon Valley tech bro. He's starting his own company, and he met some kind of businessman and got talking to him about automation and AI and all these things. And this guy's like, yeah, I would totally pay like $100 a month for somebody to automate my Twitter, so I could just take all the content I already write, give it to the AI, and then it plugs that into Twitter. And dude, like $100 a month isn't something to be scoffed at. If you get 100 people to pay for that, you're making a sustainable income. So the opportunity is huge. It just looks different than it used to. So how do we take advantage of this opportunity? Well, we're not going to look at that business side so much today, but we're going to look at the skills that will allow you to build those things. So first off is machine learning engineering, building the machine. While AI can run models, it cannot architect, train, or deploy new ones from scratch aligned with business needs. The human edge is that optimizing algorithms, managing complex data pipelines, and judging model quality requires human input. Market demand, as companies transition from playing around with AI to depending on it, demand for ML engineers has skyrocketed. So again, in my company, I'm working on computer vision models. AI helps develop these and makes it possible for just me to work on this, but there are many, many niche ML model needs out there, and there are many, many companies that are going to need to hire 1 to maybe 10 engineers to design these models. Like I said, AI can write a lot of the code to run these models, but machine learning engineering isn't just writing code that trains data. A lot of times you'll use predefined architectures, or you might have to design your own architecture if your need is niche enough. I've run into this problem many times. But machine learning engineering is understanding a full pipeline, the machine learning life cycle, which is gathering your data, validating your data, shifting through your data, and creating pipelines to gather more data when your app is live, handling errors and problems that arise when your app is live, and then scrubbing through that data, labeling the data, all of that. That's a whole process. And AI can't do any of that. I was on a meeting yesterday and we were brainstorming machine learning model development process, and we were trying to make a decision between using Label Studio, a predefined software for labeling your data, versus using our own in-house made labeling system. And we decided we can just create our own in-house labeling system because our problem is niche enough that the general solution might not be optimal. And now we can just use AI to whip that bad boy up. So machine learning engineering, super useful skill to have. Skill number 2. Come on, here we go. Cybersecurity specialization, the new arms race. I mean, there is like an arms race around like nukes still, kind of, but this is a problem too. AI is both the lock and the pick. Hackers are using AI to generate novel attacks, making traditional defense obsolete. Don't look at that. Don't look at that. It's a secret. It's a secret. Get out of there. There we go. This role isn't about watching a dashboard. It's about strategic warfare. You need to think like an unpredictable hacker and make gut-wrenching calls during live breaches, something AI can't do. So again, I'm not a cybersecurity guy. I don't know shit about cybersecurity, but it is very important, and the cybersecurity industry is exploding. I've heard of a lot of people getting into this industry, making a shit ton of money. Obviously, we don't trust AI to do cybersecurity for us, so it is the kind of thing where it's like you have to sit down and write every line of code, and that's where some of those elite code skills might come in handy. Code literacy is going to be very important in this specialization, but also the actual skills of cybersecurity is going to be very, very important. So if you're good at code literacy, if you're good at lead code type things, this might be a route worth exploring. And again, stupid money, man. Stupid money. Next is DevOps and automation engineering. So AI can't write a script, but it can write a script. It can write a script. Sure as hell can't write a script. But it can't manage a system. You design the chaotic pipeline and ensure scalability without bankruptcy. This is an interesting situation that I found myself in. I'll talk to AI and it will help me design really good large-scale architectures, and it'll help me make good like DevOps choices, but when I just tell it to make all these choices, it makes terrible choices. So it does take a process of talking things through with it, and the only way to talk things through with it and to bring up interesting points is to be well educated in DevOps and automation as a whole. Think of AI like a brilliant technician setting up the gear. You are the director making the high-level trade-offs. Rescue. When the perfect AI recipe goes wrong, a human must step in and put out the fire and untangle the hybrid cloud mess. So DevOps are an interesting situation because a lot of times, a lot of DevOps isn't just writing code. A lot of it is more like navigating dashboards and deciding where code is going to run and figuring out which services are going to cost how much to run what. Now AI can tell you this service costs this much for this and this blah, 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 blah. But you've got to decide where you're going to run your code. You've got to figure out how to navigate all these complicated dashboards and how to get automations set up. It's an interesting skill they don't really teach in college, I found, but since I graduated college, I've spent a ton of time figuring out how DevOps work, and I found a lot of utility in that in my actual job. Anyway, moving on. What is the next skill? Skill number 4, data science and advanced analytics. Context is king. AI crunches numbers, but it can't understand a messy real-world context behind the data. strategic insight. The job has shifted from running reports to asking the right questions. Instead of understanding all the ins and outs of pandas, you don't need to know all the ins and outs of pandas. You don't need to be the best pandas programmer and write all the best scripts. What you do need to do is understand how pandas works, what it's used for, how data frames look, how you can navigate data frames, the different ways you could set up data frames, and the different utilities of different data frame setups and different data relationships, and finally, how to look through a data frame and query it and how to get the right information that you would want out of it. And to be able to say, like, run an aggregate across these two tables with these columns and then get that output and then run this mathematical operation on that output and then take that number and tell me what that number is. You don't have to write all the code for that anymore. However, there's a huge skill, and this has always been the primary skill of data analysts, is to understand all of that I just described. Writing code in pandas was always just this little inconvenient part that we had to put up with. Now AI can do that, but you still need those data science skills. This does lower the barrier of entry to be a good data scientist, which means that the income of data scientists might drop a little bit, but that's okay because data scientists already made shit tons of money, and I think those skills are still going to be extremely valuable. Storytelling. You must translate a wall of numbers into a narrative that non-technical stakeholders can act upon. Onwards. Full stack software engineering. So I've talked about this a little bit throughout the video. This is kind of where my domain exists. I do a lot of full stack software engineering, and I do a lot of machine learning engineering. I don't do any cybersecurity. I do a little bit of data analysis, but not much. The AI collaborator. Forget just hammering out code. Senior work is now about owning a problem from start to finish. AI is your force multiplier, handling the boring syntax so you can focus on system architecture and stakeholder needs, or just business needs as a whole. It won't replace developers. It will replace those who refuse to use it. That's very true. It is decreasing the amount of traditional jobs out there, but again, I could not do the scale of full stack software engineering that I do, especially at this age of 25, where I'm still, I've only got 3-4 years of software engineering experience. I couldn't do the scale that I do without AI, but I have AI, so I could do it. And so AI, in some sense, created this job, made this job a possibility for me. So that's very exciting. Again, it's not going to be kind of like how for data analysts, it's not about, knowing every in and out of pandas and all the different commands, but it's more about understanding the underlying principles of data analysis. It's a very similar thing in full stack software development. It's not about, knowing any particular UI framework. It's about knowing how you want your UI structured and how you want it to interact with your backend. And then you can just let the AI choose whatever framework it thinks is best. You're not going to be specializing in Swift UI or React Native or Svelte. You're going to have the capacity to just use any of those at any point, which is very nice. So the job changes a little bit. You're not trying to become an expert in one framework. You're trying to become the overall architect and let the AI be the expert in the particular framework that you're using. Onwards. Cloud computing architecture. This is similar to DevOps. It's kind of like MLOps. AI runs in the cloud. As AI dependencies explode, so does the infrastructure needed to support it. Architects are the ones holding the blueprint. They make strategic decisions on multi-cloud resilience, data structures, and cost management that prevent the system from collapsing under its own weight. Cloud computing, it's also a very interesting thing. A lot of it is navigating the different cloud computing providers, deciding, which provider you want to use, setting up your Docker containers, things like that. And knowing how am I going to interact with the ML models that I've deployed on here, and then navigating these dashboards and setting it all up. For a lot of developers, that seems like some really easy shit to do. We're like, oh yeah, this makes sense, because oftentimes compared to coding, it can be pretty easy. But that kind of stuff, especially for non-technical individuals, just they're going to blow their brains out looking at this cloud computing architecture. So understanding these skills, having these skills, still very, very powerful. AI can advise you on it, but AI can't go into these dashboards and set these things up for you. ML model deployment, all that kind of stuff. Huge skills, very necessary. And again, it's a tool on your tool belt. Instead of maybe specializing in cloud computing architecture, it's very useful to have enough of those skills to be competent enough to deploy apps that utilize ML models or require cloud computing, maybe scheduling code to be executed at certain times, any of that kind of stuff. It's a very useful skill to have to allow you to maybe get into a position like I'm in with a company. Finally, or alternatively to produce software yourself if you have a great business idea. Prompt engineering and AI orchestration, reverse engineering, understand how models think to steer them towards accurate results. Agent orchestration, managing a cast of specialized agents to work together seamlessly. And human strategy, using AI for raw power while keeping human judgment in charge. It's important to start to figure out how AI thinks, and many people have started to figure that out, and you start to kind of figure out where are its limits. What is it good at? What is it not good at? What does it need to be reminded of? What little prompts do you need to throw in there? There are many little tricks and tactics that you learn along the way. One example is, do you want an object to be a stateful object or a stateless object? This isn't something that you know immediately. If you just go in there and tell it generate code to do this, blah, 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 it'll follow its own paradigms and create something that's harder to stick into a larger system. But if you understand paradigms like stateless versus stateful objects, you can better instruct the AI to create a component that fits well into your system. I'd say that's about it. I found AI generally tends to do a little bit of both. It will create objects that are, well, stateful, but it'll have some of its state held externally and some of its state held internally. It kind of mixes and matches it instead of creating a system where it's all held externally, it's all held internally, which is bad design if you know anything about architecture. Anyway, the core pattern here is that the future of work isn't humans versus AI, it's humans with AI. Focus on judgment, strategy, and creativity. If you have some of these skills, all of these skills, a little bit of each of these skills, you'll be able to monetize your software development skills and get a piece of this AI revolution pie. If you are ready to build things, pick one skill, start today, don't stand still. As they say, quit the bitchin', quit the wishin', start the mission. Subscribe for more, and here are my little image credits. Bam, bam, look at these image credits. Bam, 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 bam. How crazy is that? Whoa, look at that. Go check out these images. They're pretty nice. Anyway, good luck, folks.